I looked through my past conversations because I felt like I had talked about this before: motivation, discipline, things of that nature. I couldn't find anything in the conversations, not by title anyway, and the titles are pretty clear about what the topic's going to be usually. So I'm sure that I've talked about it in vlogs before because I struggle with discipline a lot. I was having a conversation the other day with Jordan, who I've talked about before. Someone I was in a band with. I've known him for about 8 years now, which seems like crazy long when I think about it. But he's a very driven and I believe disciplined person. I made a distinction to him the other day that like I feel like I'm a motivated person but not a disciplined person, and I made this distinction between the two things when I kind of labeled myself under that umbrella of being motivated but not disciplined, and most of it was in comparison to him because I feel like he's also a creative artistic person. He writes a lot. He writes fiction. He writes music. He is recently like throwing himself kind of more into writing like film stuff and like creating like film, little short films and stuff. So he's got a lot of other things that he does on top of that, like whether it be work or like maintain relationships with friends and family and partners and things. So he's a busy person. I feel like he's always been a busy person, and he still is incredibly productive in his creative endeavors that aren't necessarily an obligation or anything that he would be have a negative consequence for not doing. That's arguable because I think that if I wasn't creative enough, I would have a negative consequence. My mental health would suffer if I didn't have enough time to do things that I want to do rather than just things I have to do. And things I want to do are still, work, still being productive and constructive and pushing myself as an individual. Those are things I value a lot, and you probably know that by now if you listen to any other conversations or anything. But I find that it's always been a struggle for me to just get things done as much as I actually want to do. I feel like I can draw roots back to maybe why I don't have a huge sense of discipline, but ultimately, as an adult, like those are things that because I recognize it, I can obviously change it. Like it's something that I can work on harder. One of my main problems is that there's so much that I want to do, it's hard for me to create time to do it all because I want to be a Renaissance man. Like it's not so much that I want to be like, oh, it's like a fantastic idea. Let me just like, look down at you from my high horse. It's the fact that I'm naturally drawn to just doing all these different things, and I want to do them, and I want to do them well. And there's no way for me to be spread so thin and be able to be productive and constructive, and also like in all these different areas and do them incredibly well. So that's something I've come across before. I'm like, well, do I just focus on one thing? But I can't. Like, there's too many things I want to do. I want to push my writing more. I abandoned my writing for over a decade, it seems, and have been recently getting into it more in the past year or year or two. Slowly getting back into writing. What does it mean to me? How can I push it forward and use it as a medium again of expression? I feel like there's always a push and pull between my writing and art, and I kind of talked about that in the last podcast I did for Artist Life, as well as I think it was a story time that I labeled it on the vlog, where I talked about my relationship with writing. But there's definitely a push and pull between my visual art and my writing sometimes. And now, doing this type of documenting of expressing stuff and trying to process things through external means by having these conversations and how that's useful for me. Like, there's time that I'm taking up time to do things, and sometimes they're not big enough chunks to be productive in one area, and I do put obligations on myself, like trying to get a vlog and a conversation out every week now isn't as easy as it used to be a couple months ago. And that takes up a certain chunk of time that's like, I put that obligation on myself. It's not necessarily a schedule, but I have a thing that I really, really want to do. It's not the same as saying, I want to make a painting every week because this is a shorter thing. It's generally something that can happen, that I can make happen. I don't know. That's just my thing. It's like I really like to be organized. I really like to plan. I like to make sure that I set myself up for success. And yet, it's still a problem. Now, I have to say that some of the reasons I've cited recently about not having time, if I mention I don't have time to do certain things, I don't. My life has changed incredibly from being a sub and every once in a while having a full day off. But even the weeks that I worked full time as a sub, I was living with a roommate. Like I was not living with the kids. I wasn't in this family setting playing this parental role. That's not what I was doing. I mean, I was still in a parental role when I was there, but I wasn't there 24/7. And now I am. So that does take more time. I do not have as much time. That is factual. But I know that that is not the problem. That I am the problem. I need to. It's not just finding a way, because I've been talking about that a lot in the vlogs recently. Like, I need to find a way to be productive. And we are. Like, every week we try to change things up a little bit and figure out when can Randy get some time? When can I get some time? When can there be time for us to get away by ourselves, either kidless or whatever whatever we need in that moment? Just like, okay, whether I've been doing schoolwork with one of the children all week, or Randy's been working full time all week and she needs time too. It's just a matter of, okay, I need time to get to the studio, and she needs time sometimes to get to the studio and get away and do some, whether it be blogging or photo editing or writing, all those things, or go out to take photos. We need time. We're both creative people. We're both people that want to do things and we're expressive. And I'm finding that, yes, like, it is a process to figure out how we're going to do it, and it seems like it changes every week while we're trying to figure out what works best for us. But on top of that, the main thing is, like, I am not a disciplined enough person. There's other things too, like whether it comes to my physical health, right? Like, I could branch this out a lot into, like, my diet, how the commitment to exercise, things like that I'm not very committed in. Of course I like the idea of it, but not enough to just commit to it 100% and follow through 100%. It's a struggle. Now that's been more of a priority for me. It fits into my schedule now better than it did before when I was working, because now I can do that. One of the children wakes up, Monday through Friday, goes upstairs, relaxes for an hour. I can exercise for an hour, and then we can start on some homework and get schoolwork done, and then later we'll either go for a hike or a bike ride or whatever. So my struggle a lot, and I've talked about it very candidly, I am struggling with trying to figure out how to be productive, because the children are not very independent yet. One of them, it makes sense. They're very young, 3 years old. The other one is 8 years old, and I feel like me at 8 years old, I was taking, a 15-minute walk to school alone, like leaving the house alone, latchkey kid coming back alone, like after school, and, not, like, it was fine. Like, I was a very independent person, and I had to be. And I know that her circumstances are different. She doesn't have to be, but in a way, we want her to be. So she's capable of it. Just at the moment, she seems incapable of it, and that takes away from the time that I could have to do my own things. Again, that's a reality, but it is not the only reality, and it is not the issue. I am not a very disciplined person. I'm very motivated to do a lot of things, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to say I'm going to do all these things and then I don't do them. It's somewhere in between the fact that, yes, I'm working on those things, but slowly. And not slowly because I'm working on them every day and progress is slow. It's because I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out, I guess. I think that maybe I need more downtime than I thought. Like, I considered, there's phrases that I've used before, one of them being not having the luxury to break down. Like, I don't have the luxury to break down. And I've talked about that. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast or in a conversation before. I think I've talked about it as, like, just in a vlog or something, but not had a full-blown conversation about it. Not having the luxury of breaking down. It's something I definitely could talk about more. I felt that way for a long time. So I generally don't fall to pieces and whatever, but I do need time to do other things. So now, in the past couple of years, I've recognized, like, I've never been like a workaholic. I've never been like so crazy productive that I'm just so driven to do, like, no, I'm driven to do things. I want to do things, but I also recognize, and I've always recognized, yes, I need time to read a book. Like, I need time to rest that. Every once in, like, I don't binge TV shows because I just can't, but I'll watch a movie. Like, every once in a while I will make the time to do those things and chill out, because I find that I need that. Like, I can't just work 24/7. I've worked very hard before, like teaching full time, like, and being productive in the studio. Like, those were golden times for me. Like, I felt like I had enough momentum. Like, I felt like I was working so hard that I could continue working so hard. But I was working hard out of this is a job that I wanted. It's a job I loved. It's something that wasn't just a job. It was my passion. It was teaching high school art. And there was a lot of struggles and difficulties and challenges, and I felt like I rose to those occasions, and I felt like I was progressing and being I was learning so much, and that translated into, like, my artistic practice suffered a little bit with time from time to time depending on the week, but I was so driven through work that I was also translating to other areas of my life, and I felt way more driven as a person a couple of years ago than I do now. Being on the sub list, my occupation is not challenging me in the same way. And it's also not a challenge that I welcome because it's not something I really want to be doing. It's necessary. And I do learn from it and I get good experience from it. I have cool interactions with people and students and I meet, like there's a lot of positives about it, but it's not what I want to be doing ultimately. And I feel like, in the past, year or so, like I have suffered with, or 2 years, or year and a half, whatever, I have suffered with my productivity and my discipline to do things, and I feel like I lost momentum. And I'm just realizing now, talking about it, that that is one huge thing. I guess if my occupation or whatever is pushing me, I can definitely. It's a chosen thing. Like I chose that occupation. I'm choosing to do that. I chose so many of the things that were taking up my time there too. Like I chose to be a teacher sponsor for some of these clubs because I wanted to be involved, and it takes time and it took work and it's extra work that had nothing to do with teaching the curriculum in the classroom, but it wasn't just, I don't know, it was fun. Like it was rewarding, and doing those things for myself creatively are rewarding as well. Even having these conversations is rewarding, and it's not just an obligation. I put it on myself and I follow through with this and I get something from it, but that doesn't translate to other things because the time frame of creating a painting, or I don't know what it is. There's just certain things where I feel like, man, I can't, like I'm too tired. Part of it is being tired in a new way that I haven't been tired before. It's not the reason though. Children, family life, all these changes happening are not the reason. I have to learn to deal with them, learn to work with them, and have a fuller life, and not necessarily put my creative endeavors in the back burner. I need to channel them in a different way. And I've talked about this before. Again, but it just comes down to discipline. It's like it's really hard for me. If I create my own environment, I feel like I can follow through with that, but that's not how life works. If I lived alone or if I had a partner who, even when I had partners before that were not motivated, not disciplined at all, they were very lazy and very unproductive, I was still able to, I didn't let them drag me down that much. I was still able to find a way to control my own life and my own schedule and everything else in a way that I had this momentum to be very productive. And so I know that that's, something I'm capable of. It's not like I have to have someone, it's nice to have someone else there who is also wanting to be productive and wanting to do things. And I feel like I feed off of that energy. It's why my group of friends is fairly small, people I call friends, but they are people that are also on the same plane, that they are productive people, that they want to be people who strive to better themselves. They're lifelong learners. Like, if I want to use those phrases, like, I can think of 4 people right now that I'm just like, there's a reason why we still keep in contact, even though I don't see any of them in person. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I don't. I mean, at most, maybe 2 times a year, three times at most, that I would, be able to see one of them or 2 or 3 or whatever, however it works out, because we don't live in the same provinces. But we maintain contact, and I still feel like through their productivity, it does motivate me. It helps me. It's like nice to have a group of people that are pushing themselves forward and wanting to also. I mean, there's just a positivity. It's just a nice circle of positivity and production, and then talking about struggles sometimes and stuff. But I need to figure out, this whole thing with discipline. How do I get myself? It's really hard for me. I'm going to go back to the family thing again, but I know that's not the reason, but it's something I'm struggling with now because I can't maintain, I don't have the stability I can't maintain everyone's, obviously, choices and actions. I can only, decide things for myself. We can make decisions, we can make plans, and things will happen. I mean, even on my own time, things that happen with work that would take away from my personal time that I wasn't expecting. Life happens, weather happens, all these things happen, and I know that just because I plan something doesn't mean it's going to happen. Even when I was completely alone, single, whatever. And now I know that's the same thing. Like, there's just way more factors now as to plans not happening. But again, that is not the reason. I am the reason. And I don't know. I think it's one of those things where I feel like there's no steps to it. You just have to do it. There's no steps. Like setting yourself up for success is a step. Going to bed on time is a step. Waking up on time is a step. Like going through having a more scheduled routine is something that would definitely help. And I'm really struggling with that. Like I said, the exercise thing, that has been much better because I've had it fits into my schedule better. So I didn't have to do a lot of work per se to make it fit into my schedule. It just fits nicely. So therefore, I'm able to do it and start my day that way. But then the rest of the day isn't dictated by me. It's dictated by the work that we have to do, like schoolwork Monday to Friday, and how well she does with schoolwork and things like that. I still need to find time in the time that I have to be disciplined when there is free time to be disciplined, to be like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I don't know. I feel like this is going off the rails and falling apart already. I need to create more momentum. I need to create more plans. It's just difficult to create plans when I know that my plans don't matter because there's way too many factors of life in this fuller life that I have now that will interrupt or derail my plans, and I can't be upset about that. I still feel like having this conversation, it might be worthwhile to continue making more plans, and I have to be okay when they don't work out. But if I don't make a plan because I'm afraid that it won't work out, and there's no point in expending my energy when it's not going to work, whatever, then that's not helping myself either. Again, I just need to keep trying things. But yeah, I don't know. The whole thing, like again, being motivated and being disciplined, I don't know. That disconnect has been around for so long, and I've been aware of it for so long, and I don't know what to do other than just be like, just do it. I don't know. Do I get lazy? I'm sure that I don't know. There's sometimes where, yes, at the end of a day, which is when I'll have more time, I want to connect with my partner, and sometimes I'm like, you know what, I just want to play a video game for 45 minutes. Well, when you only have a couple hours, like a handful of hours before I should be going to bed, 45 minutes is like, could be 1/3 of that time, and that's, if I don't know, and sometimes I feel like I can't focus on trying to do anything productive. And that feels like a failure. That's the trouble. That feels like a failure. I don't, it's not that I don't like that it feels like a failure. I don't like that I am failing. I don't know if I should be changing my expectations or not. Because if I change my expectations, I'm just like, I'm changing as a person. I'm expecting less of myself. I don't want to expect less of myself. I want to do more. I want to be as productive as I feel like I should be. But the proof is in the pudding. I'm not getting a lot done, and I need to figure out how to get that work done. I don't know if I can explain the difference between motivation and discipline anymore. I don't know. Again, it's. I feel like a lot of people make a lot of plans and don't follow through. Again, my follow through is just so slower than it used to be that it is disheartening. I've lost a lot of momentum. I think that's a huge part of it. And maybe just because there's so many changes, I don't want to make excuses. That's the thing. There's reasons and then there's excuses, and I don't know all the reasons. So they sound like excuses. And a lot of them are the same ones. I think that ultimately that's just what I need to do. Is plan more, organize more, set myself up for success more. These things are so obvious. These are things that I already do. I just don't do them enough. I think maybe I need even more structure now and then I have to be okay with losing that structure more. But I need even more structure. I can't just say, well, you can't plan for things. Like, there's no point in plan. Like, no, I think that's the opposite way to go for me right now, and that might change, and I might figure out that doesn't work. But I feel right now I need even more structure, and then be okay with the fact that it doesn't work out the way I want it to, because I'll still get more done that way than if I don't have enough structure. Um, there are so many things that I want to do that I just have not started doing, and I think that's part of the problem too. Is there's too many things. Maybe I need to write a physical list of the things I want to do, and have that somewhere, and try to just that's this thing about multitasking, like the people have talked to me about before. Like, there's no such thing as multitasking. Like, you can only really do one task at a time. So if you're doing 10% this task and 10% this task and 10% this task, and you're doing that over 5 or 6 things, yeah, of course you're not going to get anything done for a long time. And maybe that's what I'm going to do: start focusing on slaying some of these tasks. It's just so hard for me sometimes to focus on one, unless it's a painting right in front of me. I can do that all day. Like, I can work on that one thing all day, and it's great. Which is, again, another reason that I've talked about before. I love mountain biking. I've got a trail in front of me. I can't focus on anything else. That's it. That's all that I can focus on. So it really helps ease my anxiety and resets me and forces me to be in the moment. When I've got other tasks that I can split up, I tend to split them up into smaller increments, and I don't think that's working very well for me. So that's another thing I need to refocus on changing. Okay, that's all I can think of right now. But yeah, discipline and motivation. For me, I'm categorizing them as two different things, because for me, that is helping me understand myself better. We will see you on another time.